This video is to help you set up a go and stay kit in case of emergencies or the need to evacuate. When you see this screen, pause the video and fill out the form indicated.
Daniel, I've just got these forms you need to be filled out.
Oh, are these the emergency forms that we need to fill out?
Yes, it's nearly cyclone season and we need to be prepared.
So these are the forms you do every year.
Yeah, just so I can be prepared.
So these are the new ones that will be used in your stay and go emergency bags.
Okay, so what do we need to do in preparation for an emergency?
To get ready for an emergency, Daniel, we need to work through 4 steps. The first step is be prepared. We'll start with this one as this is a very important step. Each area has its own dangers and seasonal problems that can lead to an emergency. The key here is to look at our area and find out what type of seasonal emergency we can expect to deal with.
Do you mean that if we live in a coastal area, we could expect floods and storms?
That's exactly right. It all depends on where you live as to what to expect. This information can be very valuable if the emergency situation is seasonal, such as cyclones, floods, or even storms.
How would we find our local information?
There are many ways to find out information about your local area. You could contact the local council, we could give them a call, or you can contact the local state emergency services. These organisations will have any information on your local area so you know what to deal with.
During an emergency, you may hear the sound played on the television or radio.
These emergency sirens will let us know when we need to be prepared to leave or when something has happened. If these are heard, it means to start getting ready and to prepare to leave. If you hear these sirens, remember, do not panic and stick to the plan. But before this, we need to be prepared.
So this is where the forms come into it.
Yes, these forms have been designed to be kept in the emergency kits that we will create later. So that in the event of an emergency, if anything happens and you need help, Daniel, the people can go to these kits and find information that's regarding your situation. When an emergency happens, we might get separated or someone else might need to take care of you. And if that happens, these forms will let them know of any requirements you need so that nothing goes wrong.
So let's fill out the Be Informed section so nothing goes wrong when there's an emergency.
Pause the video now.
Okay, so these forms are ready to go. What's the next step, Wendy?
For now, we'll put these forms aside and we'll put them into the emergency kit at a later step. But we need to keep them safe for now. The next step to be prepared in an emergency is to make a plan. This step involves creating an evacuation plan and putting it down on your evacuation form. This form is going to represent the layout of your house, Daniel, and that we can work out how to evacuate if anything happens.
So the evacuation form is the next form we need to fill out.
Yes, this form will later be put in a spot that is viewed a lot, like the fridge or a wall that you see all the time, so that if an emergency happens, an evacuation plan will be known by everyone in the home and not forgotten and put into the cupboard. To make an evacuation plan, we need to put it on the evacuation form. This means that we need to create a bird's eye view of your house, showing the windows and the doors.
So this is if a fire happens, I know how to get out?
That's right. Sometimes in an emergency, the front door is not the way to go. If a fire breaks out and you can't make it to the front door, we need to look and see if there is another way that we can escape. This information will be shown in the evacuation form so that we are prepared.
Let's finish this evacuation plan and then put it somewhere we'll see a lot.
Pause the video now.
Okay, so we finished the evacuation plan and put it in a spot we're going to see a lot. What's the next step?
The next step to be prepared for an emergency is to make an emergency kit, which we talked about earlier.
Is this the stay and go kit that you talked about earlier?
That's exactly right, Daniel. The stay and go kit is the next step to be prepared. We need 2 bags for our stay kit and our go kit.
Just a quick question, Wendy. Why do we need to have 2 kits?
That's a good question, Michelle. You see, one of these emergency kits will be our stay kit. This emergency kit will be with us if we stay at home during an emergency and will contain stuff to survive at home. The other kit will be a go kit. This one will be added to our stay kit if we need to evacuate the home.
So my stay kit will contain most of the stuff I need to survive at home, while the go kit will have extra stuff for when I need to leave. I'll take both in that situation?
That's right, Daniel. Alright, so the first kit we're going to make is our stay kit. So here's our bag, and we'll use this for our stay kit. And we've got our checklist. We need to make sure that everything on the checklist is in the bag, and also remember that this is used for an emergency situation and not to take things out at a later date. If we've already made our emergency kit from last year, we need to go through it and make sure that everything is still there. And if things are missing, this is when we'd refill it.
So all we need to do is follow the stay-at-home checklist to make sure everything's in the bag.
That's right. Let's go through the checklist and make sure that all the items are here. Then we'll put those Be Informed forms into the kit so in an emergency, all the information will be available.
Pause the video now.
Now that we have our stay kit, we need to create our go kit. This will be in case we need to evacuate during an emergency.
So this go kit will be added to the stay kit, so we don't have to buy 2 lots of the same stuff.
That's right. If we have to evacuate, we'll combine the 2 kits and we are ready. This last bag we'll make as our go kit. The go kit checklist will show us what we need to put in the bag.
So this is the same as the last kit. We follow the instructions to make sure everything's in the kit.
That's right. Let's go through the go kit checklist and make sure that we have everything.
Pause the video now.
So we've got information on our local area, we've done our emergency plan, and we've got our stay and go kits. What's next?
Well, we're actually nearly finished. All we have left is the last step, which is get to know your neighbours. This step simply requires us to create a support network in case of an emergency where we all look out for each other.
So you mean if there's an emergency, I can just call my sister to see if she's okay?
That's exactly what I mean. You see, in an emergency, the best way to be prepared is to look out for each other. This network can be family, friends, carers, or even your neighbours. If we have someone who will check in on us, if in an emergency they can't get in contact with us, we know then to come out.
I know what you mean. So in case of an emergency, I'll call Daniel to make sure he's okay. But if he doesn't hear from me, he can call me, so we know we're okay.
This type of help is really important during an emergency. Getting this support does not need to come from family. It can come from carers. But the best thing is to have more than one person checking in on you. Because if we only have one person, they might be in trouble during an emergency and they might not be able to get in contact with us. But having more than one person increases the chance of someone checking in on us.
I see what you mean. So if I can't contact my sister if she's hung up an emergency, I can always contact our neighbours so there's someone to check in.
That's right. And if we have more people, we increase the chance of all getting through the emergency with no problems. This information will be put into the Get to Know Your Neighbours forms, so that if an emergency occurs and we are running around and can't remember who to call or what their numbers are, all the information is there and available to us.
Let's fill out this last form so we know we're ready for an emergency.
Pause the video now.
So this is all we need to get ready?
Yep, that's all the steps done and our kits are created. The only thing left to do is find a spot to put our kits so that they are easily accessible and we know where they are. The stay-at-home kit should be somewhere close at hand that is really easily accessible and that we know where it is at all times. And the go kit should be somewhere near the door so that when we need to evacuate, it's easy to pick up and we're ready to go.
So all we have to do is find a spot for these kits that will be easily accessible and that we'll remember. Let's go find a spot for them.
Pause the video now.